Tuesday morning, 9 May this year, it was reported that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, or NSFAS as we've come to know it, managed to fund more students this year than the previous year. The scheme funded over 520,000 students this year compared to last year's 463,000. However, they are still facing numerous challenges, and of course, to elaborate on some of those challenges, we've got in studio NSFAS spokesperson Kagisho Mamabolo joining us for this conversation. Remember, it is a conversation that you can participate in as we try to address the issue of whether or not NSFAS is faring in providing the adequate funding for students, and especially when it comes to the year 2018. If you're looking for funding for 2018 and want to find out more information, or even if you've been struggling when it comes to some of those questions related to getting yourself some form of financial aid, be sure to engage with us this morning. The number to dial is 011-447-1742, alternatively 1620. And of course, you can feel free to leave your comments on our Facebook as well as our Twitter pages. Kagisho, thanks a lot for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting us.
Now, when we're looking at the statistics, so obviously you guys have managed to fund more students courtesy of that budget that was set aside, obviously during Parliament. In Parliament, looking at increasing the funding that is going to NSFAS as well. How are you guys faring in terms of being able to ensure that the money that was actually allocated gets distributed to the students themselves?
Yeah. I think the most important thing with the increase of the number of students we fund, it actually reaffirms government's commitment to actually assist those that are very poor and come from the disadvantaged communities. And how we ensure that the money goes to the right students. We actually target learners that come from no-fee schools, meaning they don't pay school fees, and government has already done a financial need assessment. I mean, last year we did announce that this year for 2017, every learner that has received SASA grant will automatically be waived from means test, meaning they don't have to prove that they don't earn enough at home to receive NSFAS.
So these are the SASA grant recipients.
Exactly.
They won't necessarily need to prove that they actually are. So if I'm putting it in layman's terms, if I'm raised by a koko at home, or if I'm raised by an aunt or a caregiver and I'm in matric, that individual obviously will be earning a SASA grant, on behalf of myself, or the money will go to them. Then me as the student or me as the young person, I don't necessarily put my financials of my parents forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think here the objective is to create a seamless process. From basic education, where you don't pay school fees, but also creating access in higher education. Whether you go to university or college, you should still continue to get the same support from government, and that's why we exist.
Okay, so now when it comes to some of the criticism that has gone on, especially when it comes to NSFAS side, is the issue of, okay, fine, we're funding this and we're funding it to this certain point, but to get to school, I still need textbooks, I need to have transportation, I need to have food. You would appreciate that the number of dropouts, especially when it comes to institutions of higher learning, is particularly related to the socio-economic background of the student. Many of them would say, I'd love to come to school, but to sit through a lecture hall and I'm starving, that in itself is defeating the whole purpose of me getting the education.
Well, that is true, and that is a challenge we have as NSFAS. When we started 25 years ago, the main objective was to provide funding for tuition. And obviously, the student profile has changed over the years. And you and I know that when you get to varsity, there are certain pressures and also certain things that parents cannot really just afford. And
I'm just thinking of people that are receiving a SASA grant, right? If you're receiving a SASA grant at home, then you've got the funding. There's issues around accommodation, right? You guys may cover that aspect of accommodation, but there's issues of groceries, toiletries. What am I going to do when I'm in the school?
And that's why in the past few years we introduced allowance, which is an additional subsistence that you can use to pay for your books, to pay for transport even when you study at a TVET college and you stay at home, or you stay a distance away from the college. But also we do give money for groceries. And when we started, we were giving cash or giving money to the universities, and the institutions would give to the institutions. But as we know, our students end up using that money for other things which are not necessarily for their benefit. Then we introduced what we call an SBAC system, which is a cell phone technology that allows all our students to use their cell phone using a USSD code to create a voucher which is they can use to purchase at our participating stores. They can
grocery stores,
yes.
Okay.
And you can even create a cash voucher to receive a certain, I think it's 100 rands, which is a limit just for other needs.
Okay, now, and then the other challenge that was pointed out, in fact, with me and you were speaking about this off air, is how the reason why students are not receiving the funding, or as many students are not receiving funding from NSFAS, is because the documentation in itself is incorrectly filled. So you've got a whole lot of backlog. So let's say that you've got 100,000 people that are applying for financial aid, and then you have to turn away 50,000 of those applicants simply because 50,000 of them are not necessarily filled in correctly. That's a fact, right? Yeah. So what then is being done to address that issue? Because I'm thinking, that means that you're taking money back to government. You're saying, government, here's 50, we've tried, right? Yeah. So here's 50,000. So the other 50,000, they didn't fill in the applications right. So what you do, you take back the money back into the coffers. So that's a problem.
The good thing is that we have never taken any money back to government. This year we have over 15 billion. And I can tell you that is not enough even. In fact, we go to government to request for more funding, and we have over 25 funders that contributes towards our budget. The challenge we experienced for 2017 particularly was what you have just saying, over 100,000 paper applications that came through to us. Most of them were incomplete. We even extended our applications, asked people to reapply or even submit the supporting documentation. We called them, but others never came to the party. And it was so painful because we knew these are the target people that we are looking for.
I'm going to ask you about what exactly we're going to be doing about this situation. As you're mentioning, it's a problem that students don't necessarily know how to fill in forms to give financial aid. I do believe that we've got a caller on the line. Lindiwe calling in from Gauteng. Good morning to you, Lindiwe. Hello, Lindiwe, can you hear us? Okay, we seem to not have a hold of Lindiwe there this morning. Okay, so give me the solution. So, because I understand that there's a partnership with the NYDA in the hope to actually curb this issue where students are filling in, or potential students there are filling in forms incorrectly and are missing.
Yes. Yeah. For 2018, you can go to NYDA offices nationwide. And then there, the NSFAS officials will receive your paper form, go through it, and if you have filled it incorrectly, they will give you a new form. What is important with that process is that you need to have the correct supporting documents, such as copy of your ID, copy of income.
Your transcripts.
No, you don't need a transcript really, because we get that from the university. Yeah.
Okay.
What's important in that form is a consent form that parents must sign, because they must give us the permission to verify their details, because we want to fund really the right students who are deserving.
Okay, help me this now. Yeah. You're saying that the parents must sign this.
Yes.
Okay. If you're coming from, and you would appreciate this, significant portion of our population come from child-headed households, right? So either the kids don't even know who daddy is or don't even know who mom is. Who do those kids go to? Do they have to appoint now a guardian? How then do you guys follow up? Is it not going to slow down the process? Because the realities in South Africa are that the socioeconomic sphere allows for child-headed households, allows for single parents. If my baby daddy is somewhere missing, how am I supposed to make sure that my kid gets funding?
Yeah, basically we are saying go to someone who is an adult, someone who is, it could be a guardian, it could be an aunt, anyone who can actually sign on your behalf, especially the people that you have included in your financial income status. If you have included your brother, we expect that brother to sign a consent form. If it is a grandmother as income, then the grandmother must sign the consent form.
Okay, so when it comes to the applications as well, and the process of applying, the application process is still open, or did we close it now?
It's still open until the 30th of November. And there are two ways of applying: through NYDA office, paper, or you can sit in NYDA office and use your computer.
So you can utilize this?
Yes. Okay. Or you can apply at home by yourself. It takes less than 5 minutes to apply online. Okay,
we're always talking about funding here. We're trying to find a way of getting, particularly you as a student, access to that education, access to higher learning, access to funding, especially when it comes to those results. I believe that Lindiwe is phoning us back, and we're going to see if we can get a hold of her. Lindiwe, can you hear us? Hello, Lindiwe? Okay, we seem to have a problem there, because I'm going to go straight into some of our Facebook comments, because
Yes,
I mean, we've literally asked people, share your views regarding some of those issues, especially when it comes to NSFAS and some of the processes and the procedures that were actually confronted by students. And some of those comments I'm going to just take in, coming in from Mahlangu, for example, saying that I'm a student at a TVET college. During my first year at college, during my first semester, I applied manually. NSFAS college funded me. During my second semester, the new system was introduced. Our student support officer said we must not apply again because we already are there as well. Later on, it changed and said we should apply, and the closing date was due in about 2 days. More students could not apply as a result of that. Now we were told to pay our own fees. My question is, how many times do we have to apply for NSFAS?
If you have received NSFAS and you are currently studying, you should not apply. The best thing to do is to call our contact center on 08600 67327.
67327. Okay, now I've got a question for Mahlangu, because the TVET college clearly gave them the wrong information. If they're telling them, if the officers at the TVET college are telling them you need to reapply, and you're saying you don't have to apply if you are a recipient, that means that the TVET college gave this individual the wrong information.
And that's why we, as NSFAS, now centralizing the communications with our students. We don't rely on TVET colleges or universities anymore, because with this transition of moving from old funding system to the new system, there was a lot of confusion and mixed messaging, and that was regrettable.
But then you see what the problem is that many of the students go directly to their financial office, right? And then they're going to require at the financial office, and if the financial office gives them the wrong information, they find themselves excluded just because of someone's incompetence.
That is correct, and I cannot deny that. I think what is important here is for our students is that you just know that now you have a direct line with NSFAS, not via through financial aid office. It's only the NSFAS office that should direct you to your
financial aid office
on campus, because we would then maybe want you to go there and sign manually an agreement form or submit certain documentations from there. Okay,
now I've got another question from Peter saying that NSFAS is unfair to UNISA students, particularly they're covering only module fees without allocating book allowances and still expect students to pass. Just check the UNISA NSFAS student page here on Facebook and you will be shocked by the complaints. Okay, UNISA, do you guys fund for books?
For all our students, and every university and college get books. The determination of the book allowance or any other allowance is done by the institution together with the student leaders, because allowances for UCT and Limpopo and UNISA will really be different, and so we give.
It's a problem, don't you think?
It is a problem, but the reason why we
imagine if Stellenbosch University gets a proper book allowance, and then you've got a UNISA or some other school in the Limpopo province getting.
The reason why we have financial aid committees of the institutions that are comprised of management of the university and the student leaders, is to take into the interest of the students rather than NSFAS just to determine how much a book allowance should be. And that has worked tremendously. In fact, at UNISA, we have a lot of students who are not using their book allowances. In fact, the book allowances which they have ended up being used for other things.
Okay, we're definitely going to make available that contact number for you so that you can get a hold of NSFAS and clarify some of those questions that you may have. That number is 08600 67327. Am I right, Kagisho?
That's correct.
There we go. 08600 673 08600 67327 67327. Make sure that you get the contact details, and of course you can get all that information and more. For now, however, let's enjoy a